It is difficult to imagine early man enjoying the wealth of his hunt in peace and undisturbed. No doubt he was attacked on his territory from time to time by neighboring hordes who may not have had such abundant hunting grounds. Neanderthals fell on each side, and the victors proceeded with the dead as they did with the catch from a good hunt, wrote one archaeologist regarding a Neanderthal site in Croatia dating to the Eemian period. New genetic modeling indicates that Neanderthals actually went extinct 100,000 years ago as a distinct species. The Eemian interglacial period, approximately 130,000 to 115,000 years ago, was a time of significant climatic and ecological shifts in Europe. Warmer temperatures and lush, diverse ecosystems allowed for the expansion of human species, creating a landscape that was rich in resources but also ripe for competition. A period of 15,000 years to 30,000 years is a very long time in human history, so we shouldn't discount such a theory as speculative. During this period, archaeological, genetic and cultural evidence points to possible interactions between two distinct groups of early humans, Neanderthals, who had long been established in Europe, and Homo sapiens, who were venturing into new territories following herds of large animals. The nature of these interactions is complex and has been the subject of much speculation, with evidence suggesting everything from peaceful exchanges to violent conflicts. During this period, Homo sapiens are hypothesized by some paleo-anthropologists to have expanded into Europe, following animals such as straight-tusk elephants and hippos, which thrived in the warmer climates. This migration may have led to contact, competition and conflict with the resident Neanderthal populations. To outline this hypothesis, we will outline the key arguments and evidence, combining archaeological findings, genetic data, and anthropological insights. You can make your own conclusions based on the facts presented, and let us know in the comments what you think. During the Eemian, Europe was characterized by a warm and humid climate, supporting diverse ecosystems, including large mammals such as straight-tusk elephants and African hippopotamuses. In fact, fossil evidence suggests that these animals were common across Europe, particularly in the areas that are now Germany, France and the Netherlands. Homo sapiens, adapted to hunting large game in Africa and the Middle East, may have followed these herds into new regions, effectively expanding their territory. One of the strongest pieces of evidence supporting the theory of early Homo sapiens activity in Europe during the Eemian is an elephant butchering site in Germany. This site has revealed the remains of straight-tusk elephants that appear to have been systematically butchered. Analysis of the bones and cut marks suggests that large groups of humans gathered to process these animals, demonstrating cooperative hunting and butchering practices. French archaeologist Ludovic Slimak, a prominent Neanderthal researcher, has emphasized that such organized large-scale gatherings are not typically observed in Neanderthal culture. Neanderthals were known for smaller group sizes and localized hunting strategies. In contrast, the evidence from this site suggests a level of social organization and efficiency associated only with Homo sapiens. Slimak's description of early Homo sapiens as hyper-efficient reflects their ability to mobilize large groups, plan complex hunts, and process significant quantities of meat, likely giving them an advantage in new territories. Around the same time as this hypothesized migration, there is compelling genetic evidence that suggests interbreeding between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. DNA analyses have revealed that Neanderthals carried traces of early Homo sapiens genes, indicating contact between the two species. Most notably, the replacement of the Neanderthal Y chromosome with a more modern variant around 120,000 years ago suggests a period of genetic mixing. The replacement of the Neanderthal Y chromosome is particularly significant because it hints at large-scale demographic shifts. Such a replacement could indicate that Homo sapiens males were more successful in reproducing with Neanderthal females, possibly through social dominance or conflict. This genetic evidence supports the theory of competition between the two groups, where Homo sapiens may have integrated into Neanderthal populations, altering their genetic makeup. The result was a new hybrid population with a blend of Neanderthal and Homo sapiens traits. The possibility of contact between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals during the Eemian is further supported by genetic evidence. DNA analyses have revealed that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens interbred, with traces of Homo sapiens genes found in Neanderthal populations. Most strikingly, the Neanderthal Y chromosome was replaced around 120,000 years ago, suggesting a period of genetic mixing. Such a replacement could have happened if Homo sapiens males were more successful in reproducing with Neanderthal females, which raises the question of how this dynamic came to be. Was it a result of cooperative alliances, or did conflict play a role, with one group asserting dominance over the other? Indeed, following this period of contact, archaeological evidence points to changes in Neanderthal culture. The emergence of new tool technologies, symbolic behaviors, and possibly more complex social structures suggests that Neanderthals may have adopted some practices from Homo sapiens. One such site, if the famous La Chapelle Neanderthal site in France, the skeletons there have much more modern-looking features, including smaller brow ridges, more rounded brain cases, and more prominent chins. Neanderthal skeletal remains from after the Eemian period also show signs of more modern features, possibly a result of interbreeding. Additionally, artifacts found in regions where Neanderthals and Homo sapiens coexisted suggest a blending of technological styles. For example, the development of more refined tools, the use of pigments, and evidence of symbolic behavior could indicate that Neanderthals adapted to new cultural influences brought by Homo sapiens. The idea that the interaction between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals involved not just cooperation, but also conflict, is supported by several lines of evidence. Firstly, the replacement of the Neanderthal Y chromosome implies that male Homo sapiens had a competitive reproductive advantage, possibly through violent means. Additionally, the pattern of cultural and genetic assimilation seen in later periods aligns with scenarios where one group dominates and integrates another. If Homo sapiens were indeed following herds of elephants, they would have been entering territories already occupied by Neanderthals. This situation likely led to competition for resources, hunting grounds, and shelter. Archaeological sites showing abrupt changes in tool technology or settlement patterns could be indicative of violent takeovers or forced migrations. The fact that Neanderthals continued to occupy Europe after this period suggests that while conflict may have occurred, it did not lead to immediate extinction. Instead, it likely resulted in prolonged interactions that shaped the development of both groups. As a matter of fact, the hypothesis that Homo sapiens invaded Neanderthal territories during the Eemian period, following herds of straight-tusk elephants and hippos, is supported by a combination of archaeological, genetic, and anthropological evidence. Sites in the Levant demonstrate the social and hunting capabilities of early Homo sapiens, while genetic data reveals periods of interbreeding and the replacement of the Neanderthal Y chromosome, suggesting complex interactions that included both conflict and cooperation. Further clues to the possibility of these early interactions can be found at the Krapina site in Croatia. This site, which dates to approximately 130,000 years ago, has yielded over 800 fossilized human and animal bones, including Neanderthal remains that bear signs of trauma. Some of these bones have cut marks and fractures, leading to interpretations of cannibalism. However, it is also possible that these injuries resulted from violent encounters, potentially with Homo sapiens. If early Homo sapiens were entering Europe during this period, competition for resources or territorial disputes might have led to clashes between the two groups. The timing of the Krapina site during the Eemian supports the hypothesis that these Neanderthals could have been among the first to encounter Homo sapiens in Europe. Yet, the evidence does not conclusively indicate conflict. The cut marks could represent intra-group violence, ritualistic behavior, or even scavenging, leaving the question of interspecies conflict unanswered. Indeed, the remains of 11 individuals exhibited signs of injuries that healed during their lifetimes, which wouldn't have been possible without the care of the community. Injuries on the bones include skull fractures, blunt force trauma, broken ribs, broken wrists, broken clavicles, and other injuries. The skeletal remains include individuals who appear to have experienced head injuries and other trauma, consistent with interpersonal violence. While these injuries could have resulted from various causes, including accidents or intragroup conflicts, the hypothesis of interspecies conflict arises from the context of potential competition between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. If Homo sapiens were expanding into new territories following migratory routes of large game animals, they might have encountered Neanderthal groups already established in these areas, leading to violent encounters over resources or territorial dominance. For example, the Krapina 3 skull is theorized to be of an adult Neanderthal woman due to the very gracile appearance of the partial cranium. But this gracileness could also be an indication of hybridization with Homo sapiens. The evidence of trauma, fractures and cut marks on these Neanderthal remains could suggest violent encounters where Homo sapiens played a role. Though the site does not provide direct evidence of warfare or interspecies combat, the prevalence of injuries and potential acts of cannibalism could point to increased competition and resource scarcity, which might have led to conflict between these two hominin groups. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Krapina site is the discovery of eagle talons that date back to around 130,000 years ago. These talons show clear signs of modification, with cut marks and abrasions suggesting they were strung together to form a necklace. This is significant because it points to symbolic behavior, the use of ornaments or jewelry to convey identity, social status, or group affiliation. Symbolic behavior is often associated with cognitive complexity and has traditionally been linked only to Homo sapiens. The presence of such behavior among Neanderthals raises intriguing questions. Did they develop this independently, or could it have been influenced by contact with Homo sapiens? Since the Eemian was a time when both groups may have been present in Europe, it is possible that cultural exchange occurred. The use of eagle talons as ornaments could indicate that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens shared or exchanged ideas, leading to a blend of cultural practices. Alternatively, it might suggest that Neanderthals had developed their own symbolic systems independently, challenging the notion that Homo sapiens were the sole bearers of complex culture. Given this context, it is possible that the Neanderthals at Krapina were among the groups that first encountered Homo sapiens in Europe. The skeletal evidence from Krapina, when combined with the broader patterns of migration and climate change during the Eemian, supports the idea that these early contacts might not have been peaceful, reflecting a period of increased competition and possibly violent interactions. The archaeological evidence from Germany, Croatia, France, and genetic studies presents a complex picture of early human interactions during the Eemian. On one hand, the large-scale hunting practices seen in Germany and the genetic replacement of the Neanderthal Y chromosome hint at the presence of Homo sapiens in Europe, and suggest a level of social organization that might have allowed them to outcompete or even dominate Neanderthal groups. This could imply conflict, territorial expansion, and the gradual assimilation of Neanderthals into Homo sapiens populations. On the other hand, the presence of symbolic artifacts, like the eagle talon jewelry at Krapina, suggests that Neanderthals were capable of cultural expression, possibly on par with early Homo sapiens. This opens up the possibility that contact between the two groups may have involved more than just competition. There may have been cultural exchange, interbreeding and cooperation that led to a blending of traditions and genetic traits. Whether Homo sapiens were hyper-efficient invaders following herds of large mammals into Europe, or whether Neanderthals were actively engaging in symbolic behavior that paralleled early Homo sapiens, the Eemian was a time of significant change. The discoveries at sites in Germany and Croatia provide valuable insights, but they also leave many questions unanswered, inviting further exploration and hypotheses. The changes observed in Neanderthal skeletal and cultural evidence after this period hint at the long-term impact of this contact, leading to the gradual replacement of Neanderthal Y chromosomes by Homo sapiens Y chromosomes. Ludovic Slimac's concept of Homo sapiens as hyper-efficient hunters and organizers provides a framework to understand how these early humans could have succeeded in new environments, leading to significant shifts in the dynamics of prehistoric Europe. This hypothesis if further supported by archaeological and genetic research, could reshape our understanding of the early interactions between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, suggesting a more complex and competitive scenario than previously thought. What do you think of the hypothesis? Let us know in the comments, and also check out our other videos on early human evolution. Thank you and take care.